Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all new episode of Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and if this is your first time watching, thank you for watching, and please hit the like or subscribe button. Today, we have with us another first timer. I've said that a lot in season 5 so far, but it makes me excited that after all these years, we still have people who have not yet been on Deep Cuts and who can bring something new to the table. So today, we have with us Eladio and Emmanuel Diaz from Tabacalera Diaz Cabrera. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But these are two, for people who don't know Eladio Diaz, he's one of the best blenders, I would say, in the industry. So lots of people respect Eladio and know the quality of premium cigars that he creates and brings to the table. And I'm just really excited to have both of you on to kind of talk about Eladio and what you all are doing now with your own factory.
Thank you, Anthony. It's an honor for us as well, for my father and myself to be here with you. Thank you so much to have you in your program, Deep Cups Live. I must say that I have seen your show a lot, even in the time when I was at DP Carrillo. And for us, it's a really, truly honor that it's still a lot of cigar aficionados that are really interested to know anything about our factory, about Eladio Diaz, our coming brands, and all the beautiful projects that we are working right now.
Yes, awesome. Usually, how we start off deep cuts is with a icebreaker, as we call it, question, just to kind of get the conversation flowing. So, the question I chose for you is, what's one thing each of you couldn't live without?
What is one thing we cannot live without?
Right.
Papi, tiene una pregunta. La primera pregunta sería una pregunta random. ¿Qué sería una cosa que tú no podrías vivir sin eso? Ahora mismo. Tú no puedes vivir sin eso.
Estar lejos del tabaco.
He says that one thing he cannot live without is being away from tobacco and cigars.
Good answer for this show and this audience. How about you?
In my case, I cannot see myself without a cigar.
Do you like? I'm always curious with people in the cigar industry, especially in your case, because you see a lot of families like working in the cigar industry, working together. You just mentioned like EP Carrillo. I mean, that's a big family that works together. And here you all are doing the same thing. Emmanuel, growing up, did you always know that you were going to get into the cigar industry, or was this something that kind of just came about? You know, it developed over time, and you just decided, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Well, actually, thank you, Anthony, for your question. From my side, actually, I have asthma. So since I have memory, my mom always was trying to keep me away from the cigar industry or tobacco because she said, it's the smoke, it will affect your lungs and stuff like that. But at the end, every time my father had visitors at the house, I like it to be there. I like to share with people. I like how they were talking about, I love history. I love how they were talking about history, Dominican Republic, around the world, how's the situation, how's the economy, how's everything going in the moment. So I always like it to spend my time with people with more experience than myself, because most of the time that people were around my age, I felt like we didn't have like a connect conversation. So at the end, every time I was doing that, I even was in the car business. I used to sell cars. I'm really passionate about classic cars, muscle cars, and I used to work in a agency car as a salesman. And one day I saw the reality of that business in the Dominican Republic, thanks to my former boss from the car industry. And I decided to step out of the car industry. So one day I'm actually entering at my room at my father's house. And my father was really nice, dressed with a nice suit, because he had a Pro Cigar Festival. I'm talking to you back in 2011. So I'm in my room, and my father come to the room and say, "Manny," they call me Manny in the house sometimes, or Emmanuel, but it's easier to say Manny, like a short name. So basically, my father asked me why I was at my bed. Manny, what are you going to do with your life? And I replied to him, I have no idea. And then he replies back to me, come with me to Procigar. the welcome dinner back in 2011. So I replied to him, "Why? I don't even smoke cigars. Why should I go there? It makes no sense." At the end, he's my father. I will respect what he said. Come with me to Pro Cigar. I'm like, okay, he's the boss. So I went with him to Pro Cigar, the welcome dinner. I was really impressed when I see all these people all together doing something in common, but like smoking a handmade cigar. And I was impressed to see people from the sport business, entrepreneur, a bank business, any type of business, even agriculture business, of course, and many famous people. And when we were in our table, I told my father, "Dad, look, that's a really important person from the Dominican Republic. We should go to his table and say hi." And my father's like, "Don't worry, just stay here with me." So while all those people were coming inside of the show, other cigar manufacturers were saying hi to those important people. Those important people were coming to my father's table to say hi to him. And he was introducing me as well. So after those people left, I told my father, "Who are you?" And he just replied to me, I'm just a tobacco roller." And after that, he introduced me to one person who offered me a job in Santo Domingo, related with a cigar lounge that she was planning to open in Santo Domingo. And by that time, I wasn't even graduated from the university. So once I graduated from university, she told me, "What about if you come to China and you learn the culture, the cigar culture and the tobacco culture?" I was just 21 years old. So in my head, I'm like, okay, if I graduate from college and I say I have a master's degree in New York, or I have a degree in China, I speak Chinese, I understand the culture, what is more interesting? Then I choose the second option, which I don't regret at all. So that was the way I came up to the cigar business. Even my first cigar, Anthony, was actually in China. No, it wasn't even in Dominican Republic. And that happens because one day I was in charge of 6 cigar lounges in between Shanghai and Beijing, but with the foreigners. I mean, the people who speak English, because by that time I didn't speak Chinese at all. So I remember I got a foreigner from Texas who was in the oil business. I mean, black oil business. I'm not sure if that's the right word to say. Mm-hmm. So this guy came to the shop and say, "Hello, sir. I would like to buy a Cohiba Siglo 6. As you know, the relation between Cuba and China are really good because both they consume a lot of Cuban cigars. So he asked me about the Cohiba Siglo 6. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you like the Cohiba Siglo 6? Yes. Can you explain to me a little bit about the cigar?" I'm like, "Yes, of course. Look, that cigar will give you woody notes, creamy notes. It's a medium strength, really amazing in your palate, blah, blah, blah." So after almost 10 minutes talking, the guy replied to me, "So have you smoked that cigar?" And I replied to him, "No, I don't smoke." So the guy, I have to admit, he was really cool and say, "Manny, I want to make sure you go really far away in life. What about if we smoke a cigar together?" So he invited me back in 2012, W of 2000, the one in the aluminum tube. I still have the picture smoking that cigar. And that was the time I even smoked my first cigar.
Awesome. I think that's an interesting story because I can relate to the part too where I was working in the graphic design part of the cigar industry for a while before I got to that part where I was actually, smoking cigars, and it took some convincing to get to that part where I was like finally like, okay, I'll do it. But to backtrack, so for your father, how did he get involved in the tobacco industry?
Papi, él dice, ¿cómo tú te involucraste en el mundo del cigarro y el tabaco?
Bueno, Mi mamá me llevó antes de los 7 años a una pequeña fábrica que había al lado de casa. Y ahí fue que empecé a estar en el giro de tabaco. Después en el año 1960, antes de cumplir los 7 años.
My father said that actually everything happened because one day he used to sing a song from Julio Jaramillo, de cigarro en cigarro, from a cigar to a cigar. So when he was 6 years and 9 months old, he told my grandmother, "Mom, that's how I want to live my life, from a cigar to a cigar." So my grandmother took him to a small factory who was nearby the house and request the person who owns that small factory to teach my father or give him a job of anything he could do. Because my grandmother's idea was to first make sure he could do something he likes and at the same time give economic support to the family when he was just like 7 years old. So that was his first approach to tobacco and cigars.
How did he learn the whole art of blending a cigar?
Él dice, ¿cómo tú aprendiste todo el arte de hacer una liga de un cigarro?
Con el tiempo uno va aprendiendo ese tipo de cosas. Cuando yo hacía cigarros en Mataza o en Cotaza, yo iba probando los tabacos por separado, pero no pensando necesariamente en hacer liga porque era un tabaquero. Ahora bien, cuando ya empecé a manejar una fábrica en el año 1978, ya ahí empecé a hacer las combinaciones de elementos. Y la primera liga que se hicieron fueron la liga de Griffins en Cotaza.
He says that actually, yes, since he was 7 years old, he's been involved in tobacco and cigars, but the actually art of blending was in 1976, 1978. Why? Because, yes, he was just a tobacco roller, but he was really curious to try every single tobacco, not the cigar, every single tobacco separate. For example, a variety of tobacco, Criollo 98, Corojo 99, Piloto Cubano original, identify the taste, the notes, the smell in the nose, everything around. Then he started doing that when he was at Matasa. Yes, he used to work at Quesada factory back in the 70s. And also at Cotaza. Cotaza was a company that belongs actually most of the part to the government. Cotaza means Compañía Tabacalera Santiaguense. In English will be Company of Tobacco of Santiago, Cotaza. So between those two factories, he started learning the process of the art of blending, and specifically at Cotaza, where he prepares his first blend experience, which was the Griffin.
Okay. The Griffin is a pretty, I know it's not as well known now, but I think when I first got into the cigar industry, I do remember the Griffin coming up a lot. So that's interesting to know that he was involved in that. I like the idea of, or that he presents about getting to know the different parts of or how different types of tobacco smoke, because I always say that when we get a press release as a media and it says like this has a Connecticut wrapper or hybrid something, I don't think anyone really knows what that means. So I think the only way you can really know what that means is if you've smoked those different components by themselves and you go, oh, okay, or at least you have some kind of something to pull back on to say like, oh, okay, I know what this is. Because I can imagine the hardest part of being a blender is trying to take these different tobaccos and find a way to blend them together where it comes out not a mess.
Él dice que más que todo que me gusta mucho la respuesta que tú le has dado, porque a veces ve artículos que la gente pone, no, porque ustedes sacan una capa con étnico de Ecuador, Entonces él dice, pero ¿cómo tú sabes que es de Connecticut, Ecuador? Tú la fumaste, tú lo has probado, tú tienes la base para tú decir que el tabaco de verdad es de ahí. Entonces, que a él le gusta mucho de que una palabra decir un master blender no es una palabra que se puede tomar a la ligera, porque es un conocimiento que uno va desarrollando y tomando en cuenta con el tiempo. Anthony, he also says that one of the key when you say that you like tobacco, you want to be a master blender, you must feel passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't see not see what you do as a job, because he says the day he wakes up and say, oh my God, it's 5 a.m. I need to be at the factory. I don't want to go there. I want to stay at my house doing nothing. Then that's the day he stopped working. Because if he likes what he does, he will never work a single day of his life. So you must always feel passionate about what you do, especially in tobacco and cigars.
I definitely agree. I mean, right before this interview, I was on Facebook and there were some different people in the industry talking about the high turnover you have in the industry. And why is that? And, everyone had their opinion of why that is and what's happening in the industry. But I do think it comes down to, does it feel like a job, or do you have like some passion that kind of keeps you there because not every day is going to be a great day. Not every day is going to be super interesting. So it does take a lot of passion, I think, to kind of keep you kind of bolted in and connected to stay in this industry and stay dedicated, especially as long as Eladio has been part of this industry.
Le dice que está completamente de acuerdo contigo, porque en verdad uno tiene que sentir pasión por lo que hace, especialmente en tabaco y cigarro, porque es lo que te ayuda cada vez más a tú querer desarrollarte, enfrentarte a ti mismo, a seguir creándote a ti mismo. Porque si tú dices un día, no, esto es lo mejor que yo he hecho, entonces automáticamente tú dejas de creer.
No tengo un cigarro predilecto. En realidad yo no he trabajado nunca. Yo he vivido y he disfrutado 64 años en el tabaco. Y por esa razón, yo no siento que estoy trabajando. Yo disfruto eso. Lo vivo. Es una pasión que tengo por dentro del tabaco y yo somos hermanos. Es mi mejor amigo.
He says that his best friend is the tobacco. And in 64 years, he cannot tell you that he has worked 64 years. All the opposite. He has enjoyed 64 years of his life being around tobacco and cigars. He considers the tobacco as his close and good friend in this case.
I like that idea because it is a big part. It's like if you're a writer, words, are like your best friend. So you can never get to, you have to continue to foster that relationship. So I would think working in tobacco, as long as your father has, that he has to continue to, get to know tobacco and continue to foster that relationship and learn to kind of love it throughout the years and not get bored with it.
Está completamente de acuerdo contigo con lo que tú planteas, porque es algo que tú vives y algo que tú sientes como en tu interior, que no te hace sentir cansado, en este caso. He also says that it's like if people sometimes have asked him, Eladio, what's your favorite blend, the favorite one you create? And he replies, the day I say, this is my favorite blend, this is the day I will stop creating. Because I just made the best of the best. So it's nothing better than that. So he doesn't have a predilect or a favorite cigar. He likes to keep challenging himself about creating and doing something special to all the cigar aficionados.
Awesome. When I know that a lot of people look to Eladio as being like a mentor or a point of inspiration. Like, who does Eladio look towards as the mentor? I think that's a big question that a lot of people will want to know, because it's like, who does someone as big as Eladio look up to and learn from? And I guess it'd be somebody who's maybe is not around still or has passed on, but who is who does Eladio consider to be some of his mentors and inspiration in the industry?
Él dice que para ti, en lo que tú tienes en el mundo de la industria del cigarro y el tabaco, ¿quiénes para ti tú consideras que han sido tus mentores? Porque muchas personas te ven a ti como lo grandioso, un mentor, un maestro, un caballero, pero para ti, ¿quiénes han sido tus mentores en el mundo del tabaco y el cigarro?
Mentores. Quien me enseñó a hacer ya cigarros de alta regalía fue Efraín González, en el año 1974. Y quien me dio pauta en el tabaco, en el giro de tabaco, fue Jordi Carbonell.
He says that it's two people that he considers their mentors in one specific areas. The first one who teach him back in 1974 to make a premium cigars. As you know, you have super premium cigar. Well, super premium is a term using, I might say, in the last 10 years. But you have value cigar or monos, as we also call it, or monkey. But the one who teach him how to make a premium cigar was Efraín González. So he owns him all what he learned about how to make a premium cigar. He used to work in that factory back in 1974. That was called Dos González cigars. In English will be two González because González is the last name. Then besides this person, Efraín González, in the world of tobacco, about the blending process, about what notes you feel from one specific tobacco, Criollo, Piloto, San Vicente, to Jordi Carbonell, which his name was George Carbonell. So for him, those two were his mentors back in the days.
Okay. That's always interesting to know, like I said, because I know so many people look to Eladio as inspiration and being a mentor to them. So it's like, who's the mentor of the mentor? So always a good. I guess another good question for Eladio is like when he's setting out to create a cigar or a blend, like how does he get started in that process? Like, is he going after a certain flavor profile, a certain strength? Does he like to start with a certain tobacco and see what it leads him? Like, what's his creative process like when it comes to creating a new blend?
Él dice, papi, que otra muy interesante pregunta que él tiene es que para ti, porque el que tú tomas en cuenta a la hora de tú decir, tengo que hacer una nueva liga, voy a preparar una nueva liga, si tienes en cuenta el sabor, la fortaleza o algo en específico que tú le des más cabalidad, más importancia a la hora de tú desarrollar o crear una liga nueva.
Lo que yo busco en un cigarro es armonía. Es como la música. Tengo que combinar las notas, las 7 notas musicales de pentagrama musical. Tengo que ligar el sol, la nota sol, la nota la nota fa, la nota mi, y combinar esos elementos para lograr una armonía enfumada. No necesariamente es un cigarro específicamente para el Eladio Diaz, sino pensando en un segmento de mercado que tenga esos gustos definidos y pueda apreciar la armonía que siente al percibir la fumada.
He says that when he decides to develop a new blend, he's not looking about a specific tobacco, about sweetness, about creaminess. He's looking for harmony. As the music harmony, the same as the notes of the music. As you know, the music has 7 different do, re, mi, fa, sol. That's 7 different tones of the music. So he looks the harmony using those 7 notes from the music to create everything in a single cigar. And of course, not thinking about a cigar that he will tell himself, okay, this is the best cigar. This is what I like. And Anthony must like that cigar as well. No, it's about what the segment of market will like. is looking for. As you know, many people say, for example, the American market like full body cigars. European market likes soft cigars. Asian market likes medium to full cigars. At the end, everything goes about a market, about what people is looking. Because maybe I'm smoking something that you might like, or maybe not. Or maybe I'm smoking something that you will like, but I don't. So at the end, that's what he always focuses once he has to create a blend, harmony.
Does your father care anything about cigar ratings and reviews? Because people know I always bring that question up here on deep cuts because I'm not a big fan of them because I think, as you just said, everyone kind of has their own tune that they like. So, and everyone has their own palate. And so one person's palate might not be fit for a certain cigar, but that doesn't mean that just because they give it a bad rating or review or whatever they do, that's not a good cigar for someone else. So how does he feel about cigar ratings and reviews as one of the industry's leading blenders?
Él dice que tú como uno de los líderes o sea, respecto a que es un master blender y el respeto que te tienen muchas personas en la industria del cigarro y el tabaco, que cómo tú te sientes al respecto a los rankings o ratings que le dan a los cigarros. Porque tú sabes que hay cigarros que, por ejemplo, cogen y dicen, este cigarro tiene 95 puntos. Pero puede que tú lo comes ese cigarro y tú digas, bueno, a mí no me gustó, pero tiene 95 puntos. Entonces, para ti eso como si tú haces un cigarro que diga, no, este tiene 60 de 100. ¿Eso a ti te afecta o tú entiendes que no es algo que sea relevante para ti?
No necesariamente, cada quien tiene un gusto específico y el cigarro que más le gusta es el que más fuma necesariamente. No necesariamente tiene que gustarle a todo el mundo. Hay cigarros que yo hice en David Love que a mí no me gustaban. Sin embargo, son cigarros que gustaron mucho y gustan en el mercado. O sea, necesariamente para uno hacer una liga, uno tiene que pensar en qué busca la gente. Y la mejor forma es también educar a las personas de cómo y cuándo pueden fumar un cigarro. Un cigarro no es un cigarrillo. El cigarro es la antítesis del cigarrillo. En el cigarrillo yo soy esclavo de un vicio. En el cigarro yo soy dueño de un placer. Entonces, necesariamente, cuando yo me enfoco para hacer una liga, tengo que pensar en personas que tengan un paladar definido y claro con relación a lo que buscan.
He said it's a lot of, I might say, not a lot, but it's like 3 or 4 key points to keep in mind regarding handmade cigar. First, to answer your question, when he's talking about rating, it doesn't affect him. Because at the end, by the time he was at Davidoff, he used to make blends that he didn't like himself, but it did like to the consumer. So at the end, he was doing something that the consumer would like, not something that he would like for himself. Another key point to keep in mind is the fact of educate the cigar smoker. Because yes, in the last 15, 20 years, yeah, we are selling more and more cigars around the world, but it doesn't mean that everybody knows how to have a good appreciation of a good cigar. It's good to educate them about how it has to be your palate at that moment when you are about to smoke a cigar. Because, for example, imagine yourself that you just finished to eat a Kentucky Fried Chicken spicy, and then you decide to light up a cigar. And it could be the best cigar of the world, but at the end you will call me and say, Manny, the cigar you gave me is too spicy. It's a lot of questions I'm going to ask this person because you said it's too spicy, but it's not supposed to be spicy because it has certain specific tobaccos that do not provide spiciness on your smoke. So at the end, it's 2 key points that it must be all together to make it happen.
And after years of working with these different factories and making these blends, you just mentioned Davidoff, your father decided to go off on his own, start his own factory. What was that process like? Because I can imagine at any time, like going off on your own and being an entrepreneur and starting your own business and your own brands. I can just imagine that this being a lot of pressure. So what was that process like for him?
Él dice que, muchas gracias por tu respuesta, que concuerda contigo 100%. Otra pregunta que le causa curiosidad a los cigar smokers, que para ti, una persona que dedicó tanto tiempo de su vida en una empresa que se hizo de gran renombre como Davidoff, ¿cómo fue para ti enfrentar ese cambio, la palabra correcta que quiero utilizar, ese cambio de durar una vida en un sector, diría, cómodo, en este caso, a tú entrar a comenzar de nuevo en una industria con una fábrica de cigarros?
Ok. Yo tenía mucho apego a esa compañía. Fueron 37 años que le dediqué a Tabadón. Tabadón empezó conmigo y con Kellner. En el año 1984. Davidoff empezó con nosotros en el año 1988. Y yo desarrollé 3.400 ligas diferentes para esa compañía. Yo en realidad le tenía mucho cariño a esa empresa, era como si fuera mía. Para mí fue muy fuerte despegarme de esa empresa que yo considero parte de mí, pero tenía que pensar en dejarle un legado a mi familia y hacer algo independiente para que ellos en realidad pudieran lanzar el nombre de Eladio Díaz y poder seguir la línea que yo le he trazado, de actuar con rectitud e integridad. Para mí es lo muy importante. Esa fue la decisión, tomé esa decisión.
He says that for him, yes, your question was a little bit tough.
Yeah.
But at the end, he really appreciate that question. That's why he took a while to reply from his side. For him, the first he wants to clarify from the beginning that he started at Tabadón, Tabacos Dominicanos, along with Henky Kellner in 1984. That company used to make private brands for different cigar brands. Then in 1988, as a customer, Davidoff joined Tabadón as a customer for Tabadón. Then that was in 1988. Then in 1991, they made the release in the United States of Davidoff cigars. And in 2001, Davidoff offered Tabadón shareholders, my father, Kellner, and another shareholders, to buy the company. So all of them became employees of Tabadón, or in this case, Oettinger Group, Davidoff, back in 2001. So trying to give a good reply to your question, he will say that, yes, it was really tough for him because that company was like his son, was part of his body, part of his heart. But at the end, he sat one moment and think about his family, his kids, his wife, because he wanted to leave a life legacy to his children, to build up with his children what he learned from his parents, what he learned through life, integrity. I'm not sure how to say that word in English, but it means rectitude. Like, when work straight, not looking for a short path, keeping quality and consistency, keeping in mind that quality and quantity will never be friends. So it's like water and oil. You could mix as much as you want, but it will never mix. For him, you could tell him, hey, I want to place 500,000 cigar orders, but I want that in a week. He will reply to you, no. Why? Because his consistency, his quality will be in the floor. So at the end, yes, it will be a short, happy moment for maybe a month. Oh my God, I made 500,000 cigars. I'm rich. But then after that, that's the last time of his life he will see 500,000 cigars ordered together again. So yes, it was tough for him, but at the end, he really wanted and dreamed to keep a legacy alive of his knowledge through his children, to all the cigar smokers.
And I would imagine having your own factory and having this be like a family affair, it gives you all a lot more freedom to kind of play around with blending and creating, brands and cigars and blends that really just reflect, who you all are. You can be a little bit more creative, rather than making cigars for, based on some other kind of company and their what they kind of give you.
That's correct. I mean, I also forgot to mention you. While he spent almost 37 years working in that company, in this case, Tabacalera, he made over 3,400 blends. And yes, as you say, there were many blends that at the end he really liked it, but at the end they have like a forum who at the end decide which blend goes to the market or which blend doesn't go to the market.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, he feel more freedom to create everything what he wants.
So I know before he started releasing like Eladio Diaz cigars, he also started kind of right off the bat working with Freud Cigar Company, and I thought some of the cigars that came out of that collaboration were honestly great, because I tell people like the great thing, because you can always tell and I feel like an Eladio cigar, because there is that harmony there. Like there's some cigars that you have that are super strong and they're very harsh on your palate. And they feel like kind of out of balance and you feel sick afterwards. But I feel like every time I have a cigar that Eladio has made, it's very well balanced and even keel. So you can enjoy the experience more from the first puff to the final draw, which I think is like a signature of his.
Yes, él dice que es muy interesante el hecho después que tú saliste de esta empresa, tú que iniciaste este proyecto, cómo vino una empresa como, en este caso, la marca Freud Cigar, que es un cigarro que tiene diferentes líneas, o algunas con buen cuerpo, como es el caso del Sigmund. En este caso, como hay otras líneas que tú has elaborado hasta ahora, que dan una complejidad de fumada diferente, que han sido fumadas muy interesantes en realidad.
Yo he tratado de no hacer ligas parecidas a la que yo dejé en la compañía que yo trabajaba antes. La idea mía no es replicarme a mí mismo, sino hacer cosas diferentes. Y es lo que persigo. Hacer ligas diferentes, combinaciones de elementos diferentes. Porque hay un segmento de juventudes que están incursionando en el cigarro y tienen un paladar muy definido. Y hay que tratar de educar a esos jóvenes para que degusten un cigarro como tiene que ser.
He says that for him, since he left the old company he used to work for many years, he focused and put a goal in himself that he focused himself that he since he left that company that he didn't want like to reply or copy the blends he used to make when he was at that company. He wanted to renovate himself, challenge himself to create something different. Why? Because in the last 15, 20 years, there are more cigar smokers, more young cigar smokers that are really looking forward to learn how to appreciate a good smoke, to educate themselves about how to appreciate a good cigar. And that's the segment or the kind of smoker he's focusing right now. Because at the end, it's not the same to smoke a cigar and you say, "Oh, I'm smoking a cigar," and you're just taking out the smoke from your mouth, and you're not even thinking about your nose, about retrohale, about having a better appreciation of the smoke, of the taste of the cigar. So that's his main goal right now since he joined the company. Regarding Freud, in this case, Freud Cigar was our first customer at Tabacalera Diaz Cabrera, and Freud Cigar, they were really close. They are really close to us, and they were looking to create something special, something super premium. And since we met with them, that was our main focus to work with them.
So how do both of you feel about the growth of the super premium cigars, because I think that has kind of taken some people by surprise, where a couple of years ago, I mean, I think a super premium cigar was, maybe one that cost like $20 or something like that. And now you have some super premium cigars that are, well above, I would say, the $20 US mark. They can even be $100 just for one stick. So how do you all kind of feel about that development in the industry? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or is it?
Él dice, papi, que desde tu punto de vista, desde que comenzó a utilizarse la palabra en los últimos 10 y 15 años, la palabra super premium, cuando antes, cuando uno pensaba que un cigarro premium era cuando tú estabas acostumbrado a pagar, por ejemplo, por un cigarro chamán, 5, 8, $9, que era un cigarro bueno, no que sea malo. Pero tú pagas $20 por un cigarro, y tú decías como, contrale, son $20, tiene que estar bien bueno. Ahora, de pasar de pagar $20, tú pagas ahora 50, 70, 80. ¿Qué tú opinas de ese segmento? ¿Tú entiendes que tiene sentido o carece de lógica?
La palabra super premium para mí no existe. Todos son nombres que le ponen muchas compañías a su cigarro y hay que respetar necesariamente eso. Un cigarro premium es un cigarro que tenga elementos que tengan por lo menos 2 o 3 años de añejamiento. Eso es premium para mí. O sea, que tienen las condiciones de añejamiento ideales para ofertar una fumada placentera, sin afección. Super premium para mí es desconocido.
He says that for his experience in the short time he has of experience, for him the word super premium for him is no, doesn't exist. Why? Because to consider a cigar as just as premium, those elements, those tobacco must be at least 2 to 3 years old. And of course, all the effort and process took to make that cigar possible that you will be able to enjoy. That's the meaning for him of a premium cigar. So for him, the word super premium doesn't affect him at all and makes no sense for him. Because at the end, to say that this is a super premium, for him, you must convince him why this is super premium. What does it has? That's what he thinks about the super premium in this case.
I definitely think super premium has become maybe a marketing term in the industry to kind of justify the price point for the U.S. consumer. Because, like I said, you've seen a lot more higher priced cigars, and in that same kind of breath and press release that they announce that cigar and that price, they make sure to say it's super premium or ultra premium, just to kind of justify and put in your head like, oh, okay, that's why this cigar, I'm used to paying $12 US for a cigar, but okay, I'll pay $150 for one cigar that's going to be super premium for that point. I think it doesn't make sense to the consumer either sometimes. So it's glad to know that we're all on the same page here.
Dice que él se alegra de que estemos en la misma página, ustedes dos, porque en realidad la palabra como decir super premium, ultra premium, en verdad tú tienes que demostrarle, como tú bien dices, al consumidor por qué es super premium, por qué es ultra premium, qué tiene ese cigarro diferente a un cigarro premium. Entonces son palabras que ya, en su opinión, son palabras mucho mayores. A tú tomar en cuenta, porque tiene que tener elementos que son del otro mundo. It says that he is glad that both of you are in the same page, because when you need to use the word super premium, ultra premium, minimum, the element of that cigar must have tobacco from Mars, for example. From the moon.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet, so maybe we should cool it with the ultra and super premium titles for some of these cigars. But speaking of cigars, before and after, I know a couple months ago you all announced the before and after was a big release for you all for the Eladio Cigars brand. I had the chance of actually trying it, and I thought again it was a great I'd say a traditional cigar. I don't want people to take that the wrong way, but I feel like there's some cigars that really try hard, like a little bit too hard, and they just don't feel imbalanced. Like the construction is bad, but the smoke is okay. Or one or the other, like you just don't have it all. But I felt like with the before and after, I was like, yeah, this is like what you want from a cigar. You don't want, like I said, to overwhelm your palate, but you had a little bit of flavor there. You had the good smoke, you had the good construction. So it's like all these different check marks for me, at least as a consumer. It was there in that cigar, but I would love to know like the kind of story behind before and after. Like, how did you come up with that idea, for the cigar, and what does it mean to you all?
Aprovechando y agregando otra parte, que en este caso él quiere felicitarte por la línea Eladio Diaz Before and After, que para él es una línea, una fumada tradicional, que él espera que las personas, los oyentes que estén escuchándolo no malinterpreten la palabra tradicional, porque cuando él dice tradicional, él se refiere a lo que tú buscas en un cigarro, en el sentido de sabores, consistencia, complejidad, que no un cigarro que tú dices que tú tienes que repensar profundamente para tú decir lo que tú piensas, lo que tú sientes, lo que tú percibes del cigarro. Y ese tipo de fumada que cuando tú lanzas una línea regular, o sea que se va a producir siempre, debería siempre una fábrica enfocarse a desarrollar. Entonces le gustaría saber cómo vinimos con la idea de Before and After. ¿Tú crees que yo le doy explicación? I explained to him that about what we were talking about. I know the history behind Before and After, so I told him, don't worry, I will explain to him. So basically, Anthony, the Before and After came up because my father wanted to focus everything about the blends from the factory, from Tabacalera Diaz Cabrera, in this case specifically, our own brand, Eladio Diaz cigar, to keep everything related with history. He loves history. He likes to read books. Same for my side. Learn everything behind that tobacco, about who you are, and he wanted to show something to the consumer to understand by a cigar line from Eladio Diaz who he is. So the reason we decided to use the name Before and After came up with the idea about what he was before, when he was just a tobacco roller in one specific company or different cigar factories, and the after, in this case, being 70 years old. And if you check out the picture, Anthony, of the cigar, in this case, actually, I do have one with me. Actually, on the left, you will see my father just being a tobacco roller at Cotasa, just like 25 years old. And on the left is my father looking at his family, keeping his legacy alive. That's why we choose the name Eladio Diaz Before and After. And if we talk about the sizes, we have the size Robusto 5x50, which we call my family, in honor to his family, his kids, my mom. Which, by the way, just to take a short parenthesis, the person behind creating the cigar factory wasn't my father; it was my mom.
Wow.
She was the one who would always tell my father, all the knowledge you have, all the love you feel, I want to make sure that as much as you love that tobacco, I think sometimes you love that more than me. I want to make sure that you can keep that legacy alive. But at the end, one day we have to leave this earth. But you can pass all that love and knowledge to your kids in order to keep your legacy alive. So my mom was an inspiration about the cigar factory, actually,
Okay.
and also our own brand. So regarding the other side, in this case, Eladio Diaz Before and After Pasión, which is the total size 52x6, we choose the name Pasión to remind people, the cigar smoker, the cigar aficionados, all the passion he felt since the day one. I even remember that the day I was born, my father was working, and my mom understood, like, she really wanted him to be there. But at the end, back in the 80s, he used to leave the house out at 3 a.m. to open the factory. 3 a.m. and I arrive back home at 7 p.m. Eat something, go to sleep. Next day, 3 a.m. at the factory again, 3, 4 a.m. So she always see my father as all the passion he felt about the tobacco and the cigars. And he used to smoke a lot, the size 52 by 6. That's why we decided to name the Toro size as passion in this case. And last but not least, as the word we repeat a lot in the life until now, legado, legacy. That's why we choose that name to make sure that the consumer will understand that we want to keep his legacy, his knowledge, his love, his passion for cigars, and also for his family alive. That's why the 54 by 534 we decide to call it that name. Also, to keep in mind that all the blends he used to make in the other factory, and even in the factory where he is now, usually he would choose the size 54. I mean, the diameter 54. Why? Because on the 54, when you have more than 6 different elements of tobacco, you have more uh, a chance to have a better taste of all that tobacco together. Not the same when you're smoking at 50, it's smaller, so you don't have too much time to have the taste on your mouth, all those different elements in a smaller cigar. So basically, that's why the reason we choose those three names for those three different sizes. And the reason we choose the color cream is because for him, cream reminds him of history. That's the main reason.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I think it was a great cigar, so I hope people do go out there and really try it, because I think it's one of those, like I said, when you talk about premium cigar, it's one of those that you could easily put right next to that definition of what is a premium cigar. And I think it has every little check mark that you would need to have like a great cigar experience. So kudos to you all on creating that brand and that blend and that story. This makes it even better. At this part of the interview, we usually like to kind of wind down with some general questions, but the first of those questions, which I'm very interested in hearing your answer to, is does Eladio have a philosophy that he likes to live by?
If he has a philosophy,
A philosophy or some kind of mantra or motto that he lives or
okay.
works by.
Él dice que que muchas gracias por la oportunidad, la entrevista que ha sido espectacular. Y como él había indicado en un principio, ahora va a aprovechar este momento que faltan los 8 minutos que nos quedan para hacerte preguntas random. La primera pregunta sería, ¿cuál es tu filosofía en cuanto al tabaco y el cigarro?
El tabaco para mí es como Marco Aurelio, cuando escribía sus poemas estoicos. O sea, su vivencia, su vida, la plasmaba en cada una de sus obras. Y eso es lo que yo trato de hacer, de plasmar mis sentimientos en lo que ha sido mi pasión por 64 años. Que la gente disfrute en realidad eso que yo trato de expresar a través de el cilindro que representa un cigarro.
He says that his philosophy is similar, well, is too similar about this famous poetry, Marco Aurelio. Marco Aurelio likes to show what was his life and his love to poetry. In my father's case, he wants to show between the tobacco and the cigar all the passion in these 64 years he's been involved in tobacco and cigars through a single blend, to a single cigar, not even thinking about a cigar ban in this case or anything, just through a single cigar, all the passion he feels about tobacco and cigars. That's one of his philosophies.
And the final question, which is always interesting to hear the response to as well, is I want you to finish this sentence. Eladio Diaz is...
Él dice que ya esta sería la última pregunta. Él le gustaría que tú respondieras. Eladio Díaz es, ¿qué tú agregarías?
Yo soy un simple tabaquero.
I knew he would say that answer. So I told him that you're about the final question. Eladio Diaz is, and in my head I knew he would say that. He says Eladio Diaz is a simple tobacco roller. And which, why? Because he's always learning.
Awesome. Now, Emmanuel, for those people who are not watching this, they may just be listening to this. Can you tell them what websites and social media they need to follow to keep up with what you all are doing?
Thank you so much, Anthony, for your question. You could follow, in this case, TDC Factory on Instagram. Also, we have a website, Tabacalera Diaz Cabrera.com. And also, you can follow me on my Instagram as well, Emmanuel Diaz with double M 01. Emmanuel Diaz 01. So you will see everything about what we are working with and what any other project we're looking to release. Which, by the way, for your case, Anthony, and for all the cigar smokers, we hope to see you soon in our facilities. I mean, in our factory. Also, just to let you know, our main idea, Anthony, we would love to have at least totally 3 core lines of Eladio Diaz cigars. I mean, when I say core line, is that it's going to be always available every year. And regarding limited editions, always having an anniversary in honor of his birthday every year. So last year we have the Eladio Diaz 70th anniversary. This year we're working to make sure we will have soon the Eladio Diaz 71 anniversary. Next year, Eladio Diaz 72. Hopefully, it's going to be Eladio Diaz 122 anniversary.
Well, awesome. Like I said, thank you so much, both of you, for coming on. Hopefully, it's not your last time on the show. We'd love to have you back to talk about more.
Thank you so much.
Eladio Diaz 75th anniversary cigar, like you said, the 122, the 150. So we have a lot that we can discuss. But I want to thank everyone for watching. And Eladio and Emmanuel and I are going to film a couple more things before we're finished today. But for you all who are watching, if you missed any of this episode, you can catch the full episode on youtube.com/deepcutslive or at deepcutslive.com. And there's going to be some bonus content that we're getting ready to film. So you can check out the YouTube channel for even more from this great interview. So thank you all for watching. And if you're not having a good day,